that.
Whereas trading crypto is always an insular activity.
Yeah, I think it becomes art when it goes out, as opposed to just writing.
Well, steady on, love. It's a script, okay. Let's talk about your scripts as art in about a decade once you've really mastered the craft. Okay.
After I've been on this course in October.
Well, yeah, let's do one course first. Yeah.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Good morning to you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Not so sunny in Shoreham today, a little bit grey, but with a hint of brightness behind the clouds.
Oh, we've had rain for a day and a half.
Oh, dull.
Mm.
So do you want me to start off this week?
Yes, please.
Right, quite a sort of, quietish week, no major things happening. I'm enjoying my new bedroom. I never thought a couple of rugs and some scatter cushions and a throw could make so much difference.
Well, there you are. Your daughter's taught you something.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't even like a big spend. It was just lots of, well, you've seen lots of little bits. But it just gives me a little frisson of pleasure every time I go in there. I've got the flowery bedclothes on as well. Phoebe's cooked twice. She cooked banana bread, too much salt, mistook teaspoons for tablespoons.
Oh.
But even so, she only put in half the recommended amount, and it still was a little bit salty, but it was quite nice with lots of bananas on top. and honey.
It's quite nice with a lot of disguise.
And chocolate nibs.
Yes. Keep piling on the disguises.
That's what Nelson did, yes.
Yes, good.
And then she cooked scones, and following, I don't know whose recipe, she's very independent when she does these things, and Wayne doesn't even want you in the kitchen, And they came out like little cheesy biscuits, so that was quite nice. And then I went round to Heather's for scones, who recommends, by the way, any Mary Berry recipe for scones. Apparently there's a whole page of delicious flavourings as well. And, they were really nice, those. And we had them with jam and cream. Finished Cardinal. We binged watched all of it, sort of pretty much a couple of episodes, and I absolutely loved it. It started off harrowing. The middle series was a little bit more boring, but it's still, enough to keep our attention. And the fourth and final series was fantastic. I'm hoping they're making another one. And then I've been doing...
Hang on, I think my Cardinal spy told me they weren't making any more.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, God. Well, that's on the love interest front. That's very dangly, isn't it?
Yes, it is dangly, yeah.
Yes. And then this week I've spent quite a lot of time thinking about my life and my next year to come, because one of my mateys in Stupa told me to look for a website called the Schengen Visa Calculator.
Oh, yes.
Which, if we crash out of Brexit without a deal, it tells you how much time you could spend in a Schengen country if you're not a Schengen person, And
yes, I do.
Yes. so I've worked out that I could actually have 4 trips of up to 3 weeks to a month, because the fourth one would be outside the 180 days. The first 180 days. So it's actually not as onerous, limiting as you think it's going to be.
So this website is called what?
If you put in Schengen Visa Calculator,
yeah, okay,
you can put in the dates of all your expected trips, and it'll tell you how many days you've had within. You're allowed 90 days within 180 days, but it's a rolling 180 days. And my brain just wasn't capable of calculating it manually, so
yes,
the calculator was rather helpful, and that's made me think about what I want to do next year. And I had a conversation with the kids about it and said, I'd want to keep my room on, and Nelson rather shamefacedly admitted that I'd been party blocking. I said, why? I love a party. He said, yeah, that's half the problem.
Yeah, we don't want your mother at a party.
So Phoebe was going, no, Nelson, you can't say that. No, don't say that. She'll go away again.
Not to mention that actually they haven't been able to party since February anyway, March anyway.
I know. I think, and the thing is, they don't normally do big parties here. They just used to do what they call pre-drinks, or prees for short. And so, they'd have 10 to 12 people around, and then they all go off somewhere. But Yeah, I was a little bit mildly hurt by that.
Yeah.
But not so much. I said, well, don't worry, because I'm planning, four trips of 3 weeks to a month next year. So they were cheered up visibly by that. That's my week, really. That's what I've been up to. What about you?
I'm very keen on this whole Schengen thing. I think it's a fantastic word. And really, if one was to buy a passport, which I don't rule out, you want the one that gives you the maximum access to all of the Schengen countries, which is something like 180, isn't it? It's a lot.
Yeah. Are you talking about the thing where you can buy European Union membership?
Well, you can, if I buy, say, a Maltese passport,
right, okay.
I get not just EU membership, but access to all the Schengen countries, as we did pre-Brexit.
Yes, because they're talking about a new thing where you can buy membership of the European Union, which would give you all the European benefits. But I don't think one needs to go that far. I think,
Well, certainly you don't for 4 trips to Stupa a year, do you?
No, but I mean,
No.
we've been talking about the ramifications for the people who are actually sort of spending a lot of time there, and it just moves on to a visa arrangement, and to be able to stay in Greece without going onto the Greek tax system, and also keep your residence, your citizenship where you are. You only need to be able to prove that you can support yourself while in Greece.
Yes, perfect. And is it any different if you own a house there?
No, if you're in the house there, you get a residency permit. Oh, it's
yes.
The bureaucracy in Greece is very complicated.
Well, I think the bureaucracy in every country is just a nightmare.
Even
really.
The Greeks don't understand what's going on with those residency permits. There's buff ones, there's blue ones,
yes,
there's psychometric ones. and some of them you have to be there for 5 years, but I can't even begin to go into it really. So, yes, what about your week then?
Well, I've moved house this week. I'm speaking to you from Leslie's farm in Oxfordshire.
Nice.
And on Monday night, I went for a farewell dinner up the big house.
Uh-huh.
And on Monday, I narrowly missed getting a haircut too. One of the builder's daughters was the hairdresser and was promised to come around with her scissors, but was a no-show, which was a shame. Actually, I could have honestly, and look like Paul McCartney now. I've decided.
Okay, yeah,
it's not really a very good look.
Well, but Paul McCartney.
It's not even a particularly good look on Paul McCartney, to be honest.
It's not, and I know the one you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Anyway, so
feather cut round the edges.
Well, I don't know what it is really. It's just long. It's long and multiply. Anyway, we won't go into it. It's just a sad look. And I found the move completely knackering this time, and I'm not quite sure why. And I noticed that on Sunday, which was 3 days before the move, I went out to the petrol station to get some cash in case the hairdresser did come on Monday. And I thought, when I got in the car, I thought, well, the tank's empty, might as well fill up with petrol. Petrol, by the way, is monstrously cheap now. I don't know what's happened. Yeah, the car that I own now, which I've owned since 2010, typically, I would say averagely has cost me somewhere between £48 and £60, depending on the price of petrol to fill it up. It was £35 on Sunday.
Well, it should be zero because the price of oil has crashed through the floor.
Well, exactly. And somebody yesterday, a client of mine, was telling me they have oil-fired central heating, and she said it's never been so cheap. Anyway, 35 was a bit of a bargain. What's the point of this story? Oh, yes, I noticed a little bit of... I'm going to blame it on lockdown. I noticed a little bit of anxiety before I went to the petrol station, and I found myself thinking, well, I wonder if there's any way to get cash without actually leaving the house. Of course, once you're out and about, it's not like that at all, but I just noticed this funny little bit of... So it was good for me to move house, basically, because I'd become a bit housebound, honestly.
Yeah, agoraphobic.
Yeah, well, just a small tendency towards that. I wouldn't call myself that, but I just had a sudden...
I know, exactly. I sometimes look out of the window and think, I could just go outside.
Yeah, well, exactly. Anyway, so once I was out there, I was fine, but it's interesting to note that. And the transfer day, Tuesday, was hot, unlike yesterday and today. And I'd just thrown everything in the car, and it'll need a good sort out before I leave here, because when I go to my niece's in Clapham, you can't leave anything visible in the car because of banditry that goes on in city centres. So I've got to rationalise all my possessions in the car, and I can't do that at the moment while it's raining. So this is all really quite annoying. But the long hair was a problem in the drive down here because it's a hot day and the windows were open, and I'd packed my hairband somewhere and my long hair was blowing in my eyes, which was an absolute nuisance. And I got cramp in my foot. And by the time I got here, Leslie sort of shouted at me from a distance. And I said, I'm so sorry I'm early. I just need to go inside and have a sit down. It had been quite sort of exhausting, this trip. And I got in and I checked in with that everything was all right in the business and other news. And then I went upstairs for a little lie down. And as soon as I got into her bed, I remembered, oh my God, this is the most comfortable bed in England. I haven't had a chance to talk to her yet about this bed, but I really need to replicate this bed in my new house. Speaking about you and sheets and bedrooms and things, there's nothing like, a comfy bed. The cleaners that came to do the little cabin in the woods where I was staying were late, and that annoyed me. It was all really sort of a pretty aggro-ish day, really, on Tuesday. But after a couple of nights in Leslie's spare bed, I do feel like a new woman. And I remember thinking in the car on the way down here, although I felt good in myself, if you know what that funny old-fashioned expression means, I think I did say out loud, I feel bone weary.
Yeah. It's the emotional, I think.
It is. It wasn't just the emotion of that move. It's like the emotion of all of these moves over the last 3 years is beginning to creep up on me now. And I could do with some quality rest. And of course, I'm only here for 4 nights. But anyway, there we go. Also, my iPad has stopped working, which is an absolute tragedy because I use it like a smartphone. And so first of all, what I did was it wouldn't hold charge. So I got some new cables, and it wasn't the new cables, which meant it was the gadget itself. I think I might have dropped it just once too often with the cable in it, and it bent itself or something. I don't know. But it means I'm doing my brain training on 1% of battery, holding the charging cord into it. And thank goodness I did, Nicola, because unbeknownst to me, on Monday, I was on day 99 of a 100-day streak for which you get a badge.
Right.
I would have missed out on my 100-day streak badge if I'd let myself miss some of my brain training. Anyway, I miss my iPad very much indeed. And Eric, Eric runs the business that Dan used to run, the engine room that looks after my computers. He ordered me a new one last Thursday. He says that Apple's being a bit slower than normal, but we're hoping it's going to come today or tomorrow. And what was fortunate is that it is my constant companion and I love it. Fortunately, I didn't need its sat-nav function to either get me to Leslie's or to get me up to Claire's on Saturday, but I miss my iPad. Do you know, today is the 75th birthday of my best friend David of Jane and David, and he gave me that iPad as a cast-off in 2017 because his wife gave him a new one. So a second-hand iPad has lasted me 3 years. That's not bad, is it?
That's not bad at all, yeah, absolutely.
And he reset it to factory settings for me as well. Such a lovely, careful, clever person.
Yes.
Sweetheart, worrying person who wouldn't want to leave any of his own data on it before he gave it to me, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Talking of badges, I've just been alerted in the last couple of days that I'm entitled to claim a badge as one of the top fans of Life Full of Meaning.
Oh, excellent.
I'm not sure.
I'm a top fan. I think I'm a top fan of Sally the Astrologer. One more thing on the... Oh, yes. On David's 75th birthday today, that year, 3 years ago, his wife gave him a new iPad. Today, she's giving him one of those bicycles that have a motor on them.
Oh, electric bikes, yes.
Yeah, an electric bike, which is all the rage at the moment, isn't it? So I know what he's getting for his birthday today, even if he hasn't opened his present yet. Ah,
well, it's all the rage in Stupa as well. Some of the more elderly population do like to cycle, but some of the hills are punishing. So Stella, my friend, who she used to push an old butcher's bike up and down the hill, and that hill was a killer, I tell you.
Yeah.
And now she's got an electric bike and whizzes up and down twice a day.
What a marvellous thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a marvellous thing.
Exactly.
If my balance was better, I might be having one of those myself.
Yeah, well, Irving got Phoebe a bike for her birthday, and that's proving to be a present that she's not using as often.
Yes.
They have to hunt. We're on the second floor.
Yeah.
The bikes up and down.
No, that's not fun.
Nelson manages to do it as part of his workout, but I think Phoebe's a little bit over it already.
Yeah, I would be with her.
Yes, okay, so let's move on to what's fueled your fire then.
Yes, what has fueled yours?
Well, I did the big Phil Harrison 5-day challenge on 5-day challenges. I'm trying to explain that to people. It's been very funny. I really loved the 5-day challenge. It was fantastic. And I signed up for the course, but mainly because he promised that he would teach me what I've done wrong with Facebook Messenger. And, the whole thing is about automating it through Messenger. And he's encouraged me to try out Active Campaign, which is an email list host that I've never used, but I know lots of people like Neil use. And the best thing about it all, Judith, I was so impressed with this, I can't tell you, was that you get to that point in the course and he says to you, just click this, open your account and click this link, and it downloads the whole campaign into your active campaign. And it also, another link, downloads the whole Messenger bot campaign into your ManyChat, which is the thing that runs your Messenger bots. And all you have to do is swap out the pictures and the content for your own. And it was just, as someone who knows how to do this and who knows how, could do it at a push, but it would be a real pain. It was such bliss to have it done for me.
But it's right, Nicola. It's easy.
Well, exactly. And also, it makes all of his students push through easily the bits that would stop them in their tracks, the tech. And I was so impressed. I didn't even know such a thing could be done. And the content of the course is very, very good. And the backup PDFs, are really beautifully designed and things. So it's made me realise, and it's all hosted on Thinkific, which is one of those sort of e-learning platforms. And it's made me realise how old-fashioned my stuff looks, really, even when you access it through the app. So I'm seriously thinking about moving what used to be called the Be Everywhere Online chat training onto Thinkific or something similar, just as a first step towards upgrading it. Yes, and then this week I felt very pulled after talking to my Write Club ladies. We all get together once a week and talk about how we're not writing very much, with the odd prod from the odd one who's had a spurt of writing. And this week I felt pulled to park my screenwriting until the course in October and go back to good old Brienne, my sci-fi novel. When I was in the shower thinking about it after the call, I had a little breakthrough, because I read somewhere or listened on a podcast and it said you have to give your reader time to get to know your protagonist. And what I'd been doing was, because I've got sort of three main storylines running through this book, and I would be alternating chapters between each of them, but I've realised that perhaps I haven't given people a chance to get to know Brienne enough, so I need to make her chapter at the beginning longer before I then swap into another strand of action. So that gave me some ideas about what things I could pull in from future. I was doing some stuff in the future of the book where it was a flashback. So I thought it didn't need to be a flashback. It could just be in that first chapter. So I had a little breakthrough on that front.
Okay.
Really. But whether I'll actually start typing is a different matter again. What about you? What's fueled your fire?
Well, before we go on, let me talk to you about your screenwriting. A few weeks ago, at some point in the last couple of weeks, you were telling us that a life that involved just screenwriting and trading crypto was too insular. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. It didn't have enough meaning for me.
And I thought afterwards, well, that's rubbish, because as soon as a script is published, it reaches thousands of people and meaning pours into your life.
Yes, but it was about my value judgment on
the activity. Yes, I understand that, but I don't want you to forget that when these words, whether it's a script or a sci-fi novel, are eventually read, that dynamic that you were talking about then completely changes. Yes, but it doesn't. It's entertainment, isn't it? It's just there you go. See, I've got some value judgments around that, which I realise aren't helpful. But it's just entertainment. It's not going to change anyone's life. Well, I don't agree. You started by telling me Cardinal. Entertainment. I think actually entertainment is all that changes people's lives. Well, yeah, but no, it's a drug for the masses. That's what it is. It's not actually something that's going to make a difference. I don't agree. I'm going to tell you at the end in What's Impressed how entertainment this week has made a difference to my life. Oh. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't, make one's life more fun. But I'm thinking when you start to feel some success at it, that dynamic where you thought it was just an inward activity will change. Clearly, there is a large element of writing alone at home. But once it starts to go out into the public and people are watching it and you're doing talk shows about it and stuff, it changes. It's not an insular activity anymore. Well, I think it becomes art at that point. Whereas trading crypto is always an insular activity. Yeah, I think it becomes art when it goes out as opposed to just writing. Well, steady on, love. It's a script, okay. Let's talk about your scripts as art in about a decade once you've really mastered the craft, okay? After I've been on this course in October. Well, yeah, let's do one course first. Yeah. But no, listen, before we move on from that, I did hear Sean Coyne, the editor and founder of StoryGrid, talking about how stories are actually, what was it he called them?
they're sort of psychological technology, because it's through the ability to tell stories and pass knowledge on from generation to generation from the caveman days that humans have managed to upgrade themselves. So he talked about it in terms of software.
Well, there you go.
I really quite like that a lot, because it makes storytelling more important.
I think it has the potential to be considerably less isolating than trading crypto. And you know how you sort of wamble about the world afterwards and you think, well, I don't know what she's talking about. Okay, writing's insular, but once that goes out to the public, that's going to be quite connecting.
I think I was comparing the writing not to the trading crypto, but to the training and mentoring people on how to market themselves.
No, I think you were. It was to do with not being allowed to do Facebook Lives and not communicating. And actually, what you were thinking was that writing the script writing wasn't communicating, but actually it is. It just is a delayed mechanism. Anyway, let's go there. I just wanted to point out, don't think of the screenwriting as isolating as the crypto.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Right.
Shall I tell you what's fueled my fire?
Yeah, then.
I have permission to share this from a client, but anonymously.
Okay.
It's the story of an artist I met via Alice. But before I tell you the story, I'm going to tell you something I learned about this sort of thing from Alice. A few years ago, she told me she was going to deliver a picture across London to a buyer. And given that she was then, and still remains quite time poor, I didn't think this was a very good idea. But she proved me wrong in so many ways, because it's very good for the relationship between the artist and a collector, or a buyer that may start to become a collector. If you turn up at their house and you're involved with them about where it goes, and it's marvellous for them to have the visit from the artist. And it was just she just proved me wrong. It was a no-brainer that for certain people she would deliver certainly a big one or a commission or something like that. So I knew that this other artist was doing the same thing last week. She was going to drive a painting from her home to the coast. And in view of lockdown, she and her other half were quite looking forward to a day out at the seaside, doing the things you do at the seaside, including, I think, fish and chips, although I may have made that up because there's been a lot of talk about fish and chips in my work this week. But anyway, she sent in a message on Monday in a weekly check-in. And I'm going to tell you why I like this story afterwards. It said, I had my first car park sale. A big painting leaning against a car doesn't really show it at its best, but deal done.
Oh, really?
So on the way to deliver a piece of work to somebody else, she sold another one just by repacking her car.
Oh, my God.
Now, let me tell you why I like this, for the listener in particular, because at the beginning, when we're starting a business, we make such a fuss in the early days about selling things. Look how easy it is.
Yeah.
As I said in my book, make art, show art, and allow people to buy, even if showing that art is up the side of your car in a car park at the seaside. People can't buy anything, particularly art, unless they see it.
Yes, that's very true.
What a wonderful story. I had my first car park sale, a big painting leaning against a car, doesn't really show it at its best, but deal done.
So she had other stuff in the car at the same time, did she?
Must have done. Either that or it was this one and it was a series. I don't know the details, but the fact is she sold a painting just by transporting one to another to a buyer.
Fabulous.
I know. And don't stand in the way of people offering you money for your artwork.
No,
for your output.
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, focus of the week.
Yeah, focus of the week is thanks to Irene, your friend and mine.
Mm-hmm.
And Irene doesn't know this yet, so if she's listening, and she will be, she'll go, oh, it's me. And I've entitled it "Creating Through Vibration" because she shares every day, and I love my life when she puts in her gratitude. She shares an image from.
Hang on, slow up a little bit. So, I Love My Life is a group that you run.
Yep.
And what's this about gratitude?
Every day we just list 3 things. We're praying rain, if you remember what that means. We are. Yeah. I mean, actually, we don't always get it right. You're supposed to go in every day, which not everybody does, and list 3 things you're grateful for, mainly in advance, so that you manifest them. But it doesn't matter. We're listing things we're grateful for, and the people who are really good at it and diligent, which includes Irene, it's life transforming, and. Irene is a big Abraham fan, and every day when she lists her gratitudes, she also shares an Abraham meme. So a nice picture with some text on it that's thought-provoking. And recently she said that she'd collected all of the contributions she'd made to the group in a file, and she's done it every day without fail, and she's got 400 of them in there.
No.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Irene this week. She didn't mention that.
I've been doing it for 3 years, so presumably I've got
Wow.
3 times 400. Anyway, whatever. Here we go. The meme in question says, hard work is not the path to well-being. Feeling good is the path to well-being. You don't create through action, you create through vibration. And then your vibration calls action from you. Now, this is about hard work and versus vibration. What's the better route? And certainly observing Irene, I can tell you that her choice to do it through vibration is much easier and much more successful. So I was thinking, what have we created through hard work and what have we created through vibration? Well, I created my first business through hard work and it took me 20 years to do it and it paid off. And I know hard work and I can always fall back on hard work if I need to. But I don't like hard work anymore because I'm 65. I like to create through vibration. And today in I Love My Life, I did on a day when all you can think about is the fact that your tax refund was much smaller than you thought because HMRC have deducted from it what you owed them. The fact that it's raining again so you can't repark your car and that Apple are being a bit slow at sending you an iPad. You've got to be very creative because you've got to you can't manifest anything by moaning. So the point of I Love My Life is to up the vibe and to be grateful for the rain and to be grateful for what your life's teaching you in the week you haven't got your iPad and blah, blah, blah. But I created my book through vibration, which was I just went out for a drive and had a genius idea and came home and wrote it.
Well, yes, but then you followed it up with action, didn't you?
Yeah, but that's what it says. Your vibration calls the action from you. There's no suggestion in here you don't have to act. Your vibration will nudge you into the divinely inspired actions.
Yes, and that is the true. Whenever anyone asks me how can I get motivated to do something, I say, no, you can't get motivated. You have to be inspired.
Yeah, that's true. You can't get motivated, I don't think. I mean, because hard motivation is a variant of hard work. It's like you have a personal trainer to motivate you to do something you don't like very much.
Yeah, Phoebe is having personal training sessions every week in her bedroom at the moment with her personal trainer. She comes out of that sweaty and haggard.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Okay, so let's go. Hang on, you have a cough.
Sorry. It goes both ways. I'm really pleased I know how to do hard work. I'm also really pleased I'm forgetting to do it that way first. Because in my second career, and Irene and other members of this group, if you could only see this switch, it's like they've turned on a switch and everything comes easily and everything's light and everything's fun and it's more successful.
Yes, and it's really nice to hear that because, I mean, Irene's someone who I've kept in touch with over the years and even went to stay with. And
well, Irene, don't make no bones about it. Irene knows how to work hard if she wants to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And she's a very, very practical person, down-to-earth practical person.
Diligent, yeah.
To her because she's a very grounded person.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because she does absolutely believe in all this stuff and
she does
acts it out in her own life and work.
She does.
I know she's been through hard times and I know she's been through periods where she's worked very, very hard. And I love it when she says, I love it when I suggest something she could do and she says, yes, I could, but I don't think I will. That sounds like hard work to me, she says.
Yes, well, there you go. You see, she's got it.
Yes, well, I was brought up by one of the things that I remember my mother saying to me was you can have absolutely anything you want in the world if you want it bad enough and you're prepared to work hard enough for it. So I have been brought up in the school of hard work.
Well, do you know, Nicola, I don't think that's bad advice. When was that? In the 60s or something?
Yes, in the 60s.
Yeah, I don't think that was bad advice then. I certainly got the same advice in the 50s, and it's very much advice of its time, and it stayed with us, didn't it, for decades?
Well, it did. And the thing is, that was given to me by a mother of 2 small children living in Worthing who'd given up her dancing and singing career to be a mum.
Yeah.
And who actually was profoundly suffering from postnatal depression. So I'm very grateful to her that she managed to instill in me the thought that, yes, I could do or be anything I wanted to be. Unfortunately, that message was diluted as a child after child came along. So I definitely think the younger two wouldn't say that she gave them that for sense. But luckily, it passed on enough to me for me to be able to carry that on to them. Yeah. But so I have always hard, and it's a bit like being the difference between being a freelancer and being a business owner, isn't it? I'm not saying that being a business owner is any less hard work than being a freelancer, but what it does is being a business owner, you realise very quickly that you can't do everything. Whereas being a freelancer, you look at, my clients who are freelancers versus business owners, the freelancers try and do everything themselves. whereas the business owners think, who can I get to do that for me? And that is a real breakthrough in terms of an investor, in terms of building a business, and in terms of structuring your life around this thing about not thinking that hard work is the only thing that makes you successful.
I think that's the crucial word, only. Do you know what I think it's like? I think it's the difference between a bicycle and an electric bike.
Yes, there's
no reason why it shouldn't be easy. Kick the electric gear on when it gets tough.
Because all the Puritans out there, myself included, the word that comes to mind is cheating.
Well,
you're cheating.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
And it's perfectly fine, and that's an all or nothing kind of.
So do you have the sense as well? And I've certainly got several clients like this, and when I've suggested it to them, that some of them feel a little bit guilty. Some people are jammy. Everything's easy and it goes well.
I don't resent people who appear to have that outlook because I know that they've been through their own stuff. We've all been.
Yeah.
But I've learned that, and I'm sure that there are people who are jealous. Well, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? When you see people think, the whole sort of socialist thing of take from the rich to give to the poor, without any thought that the rich might have worked their asses off for what they've got. It's that whole thing again, isn't it? It's the entitlement, because you don't understand what people have been through to get and hold on to what they've got. Although there are, obviously the billionaires are the exception to this. Although they worked hard in the early days.
Yeah, I don't think they are an exception necessarily. I think it's about the choice. Yes. And it's about the well-worn groove. And for a long time, hard work was, and still is, can be. It's always still available to me if I want to get something done. And for some unknown reason, I have a crisis of faith in the vibe, which is rare. I know I can pull my finger out and get it done. So it's a well-worn groove, and I know it works. It's just not my route of choice anymore. I'd rather kick the gear on the electric bike and have it be easy. But creating, it's about what's the title is creating through vibration. So forget the hard work bit, which is the beginning. What it's saying, this thing, is feeling good is the path to well-being. They're calling it well-being, but we're calling it work. You don't create through action, you create through vibration, and then your vibration calls the action from you. Can you think of anything you've created through, with ease, that was fun and upbeat and just, I can, in your example, actually.
What have I created with it? Well, loads of things. As soon as I found out about the law of abundance and really took it on board, I created a coaching business that was very successful. And then that turned into the money gym.
Do you feel you did that through vibration or hard work?
No, but definitely through vibration.
Yeah, I agree. That first email that you sent out on that, was it at Christmas time?
No, it was I remember it was an early summer, because I sat down, I wrote the email, I sent it out, went to get the kids, came back to something like 27 clients.
Yeah, that was created. That was a vibration that day.
It totally was. It felt like it flowed through me.
Yeah.
And the genius idea to have the workshops in my own hotel and create a whole 1-year program thing, that just sort of downloaded into me one day.
Well, that's the vibration, you see. Yeah. When we're in the flow, and downloaded, I think that's the thing, because that's the calling of the download calls the action. Right.
So here's the thing I was going to say that I forgot a minute ago, is that, that thing about success is where luck meets, luck is where opportunity meets hard work. And you have to have done the prep work for the vibrational stuff to download and to be able to run with it. I think I do wonder, I couldn't have downloaded all that stuff about the money gym and all that idea about having the workshops in my own hotel. I couldn't have done any of that if I hadn't done the hard work before it.
And what hard work do you feel you did before it?
Oh, hang on a minute. Getting a 12-bedroom hotel ready in 6 weeks flat, that was quite hard work.
Yeah, but that wasn't for this, was it? Or was it?
Well,
that was because you decided to buy and own a hotel, wasn't it?
Yes. But I think when I then decided to launch, because I was coaching wealth coaching under my own name.
Yes.
But the idea of the money gym coaching program, workshops, blah blah, get the guests in, everyone come and stay at the hotel for 2 days and hang out together. All of that couldn't have downloaded if I hadn't been through the hard work of buying and renovating a hotel.
Yeah. And how old were you then? Can you remember?
Yeah, I can remember exactly. I was, the kids were, I was late 30s, early.
You see, and I don't think that feels like hard work when we're in our late 30s. That's the point, in a way.
Oh, looking back on it now, I'd never even dream of it. And I remember sitting in Kim's garden thinking, am I doing the right thing here? And she said, well, it'll be fun, won't it?
Exactly. Well, that's sort of a bit vibey, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's a fun vibe.
True. Yes, that's very true. So let's not discount the whole luck is where.
I haven't mentioned luck yet. I haven't mentioned luck
I
at all.
I don't believe in luck, but it's a good little saying for reminding you that you can't have vibration without preparation. I don't think.
It's a good little thing for reminding you. What I see Irene do every day in this group is switch from Model A to B, and Model B work much better in every way.
Yes, but she couldn't have switched to Model B if she hadn't done some work on Model A. That's my point. I'm
not sure that's true. The work is different. The nature of the work is different, which is why I think this work is a strange word.
That's why I prefer the word prep, I think, because prep doesn't...
Well, I know that you believe you can't sit on your settee and hope and wish, and I don't think that this meme is suggesting that. It's saying that there's a better route to creation than hard work. And that's inspired action that the vibration calls forth from you.
Okay, I'll go along with inspired action. That sounds good.
Well, what it's saying is, don't sit and think, well, we've done hard work and it's brought us some results. And what it says is, you don't create through action. And if you think about that, we don't create through action. That's true. We create through vibration, and then your vibration calls the action from you, which brings the thing into existence.
I totally agree.
Yeah, it's just a different route. It's a different route, and it doesn't discount any hard work you, me, or Irene, or anybody else listening has ever done or feels inspired to do today.
No.
But there's another easier, lighter route out there if you get good at it. And what constitutes getting good at it is a daily choice at every junction about, shall I go the well-worn hard work route that I know works, or is there a lighter, easier, fun way? How's my vibe?
That's a fantastic question. Is there a lighter, easier, fun way to do this?
Yeah, it's a crossroads question every day. At every point, we can ask ourselves that. And I think the point of this is like with everything, and that's where the electric bike comes in. The more you practice anything, a new way of doing things, because our hard work way is well worn. We know that one. It's there if we want it still. We're not giving it up. It's still available to us. Should we have a deadline, we need to sweat or something like that. And occasionally we all do. But, what if it's about creation, which you and I both are creators.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of our listeners are, and entrepreneurs are, and so forth. Perhaps the better way to create is through creating the vibration that then leads to the call for action.
Some good examples of that this week alone is that with this course, there were some jobs in it I didn't want to do. Like there was filling up 5 emails with a soap opera sequence of content. And when I actually, I just put them to one side and I thought I'll come back to that. And then when I came back to that, I thought, oh, okay, she's not as bad as I thought. So I can, so I had to write. And funny enough, I was writing a sequence about outsourcing and about how Neil pulled me up when we were working together and said, you're the bottleneck in this business and you are costing this business money. And because you will not delegate and you will not outsource. And then I started doing it and I realized how much more fun business is and how much more in the flow you get with business when you're not thinking, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, no, it's more work for me. Whereas if you can think, oh, that's a great idea, who can I get to do that?
Well, also, the thing about that's so brilliant, and it's the point of being in business in a way, is you're creating an opportunity for somebody else to earn money and express their gifts.
Absolutely. And the other thing is about, the whole writing thing is I've had to keep, I've had to get comfortable with the idea that I can't just sit down and write every day. Although having said that, one of my Write Club ladies did suggest that.
I do think that's the right thing to do as a writer, by the way.
Absolutely, but you can't do that when you feel foggy about the structure and the plot and all that stuff. Sometimes you have to move away from your computer and just let it marinate. It feels like it's marinating inside you, and then suddenly an idea comes about how the plot can resolve itself or how an issue with the character can resolve themselves, and that won't come through forcing it and hard work. That will only come by letting it marinate and giving it time to percolate. Those are the best words I can think of for how it feels.
Yep. But I think the discipline of daily writing as a writer is to offer yourself up to the muse.
And I totally agree, because it was after I wrote those 5 emails about outsourcing and turned it into a story, a soap opera sequence is when you leave each email on hanging on a cliff edge, and then you go on to the next email the next day. It was after that I felt inspired to go back to Brienne. So obviously there is something in this.
Ah, good.
There is something in this.
Writing makes you want to write more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so in conclusion then, how can people turn this into something they can use effortlessly, easily and funly?
Well, I think it's just a question of remembering that hard work isn't the only way.
Yes.
And that we create through vibration first, and that the vibration calls the action from us.
Yeah.
And to experiment with it a bit, actually.
Yes, and use the visualization of your dream to get inspired, and then see if you're then compelled to take some fun, easy action.
I also think that some people are naturals at this.
Yeah,
and another way, the way it happened for me was, I wasn't very old when I sold my accountancy business, but I knew I didn't want to do it that way again because it was hard on me.
Yeah.
And I didn't believe it was the only way.
Yes, because you'd learned better.
Well, and I don't think I had at that point. I just had a knowing that there was another way for business. My coaching business was completely different. It's much lighter and easier and in every way.
Yeah.
I think, yes, I think we're learning all of the time. And I like the idea of creating through vibration. And I think we've got examples in our own lives, and I expect the listeners have as well, of, what have I created through when I had a genius idea one day when I was gardening or something? How could I do that more often?
Garden more often is the answer.
Well, exactly. You've got to put yourself in the place, haven't you? The trance-like. If you want you've got to put yourself in the trance-like place that creates well-being.
Yes, and it always involves your body doing something automatically that you know how to do inside and out. So
can do. Like
yeah.
I favour driving for it.
Yeah. Driving, showering, gardening, walking the dog, probably.
Yeah, it's distracting the lizard brain, isn't it? Somebody, I think one of our correspondents said that last week. Yeah. But I think it's about, I suppose it's an awareness that hard work isn't necessarily the only way. And you talked about Puritans. I think that's a good use of that word, actually. And that we have the opportunity, if we want to experiment with it, to create through vibration instead, which calls forth the action you feel inspired to do. Yeah.
And notice if you feel the word cheating come up in your...
Yes, or jammy. Yeah. When I've said to my clients, "Oh, you're a bit jammy, aren't you?" They sometimes a bit guiltily go yes, and some of the other ones go, "Yeah, great, isn't it?" The people that know they're jammy and they're okay with it, that just means things come to me easily. Yeah. And they've got a system switched on.
And I think the quote of this section so far is, "You can't manifest anything by moaning."
That is true. You can't manifest anything by moaning. No, you've got to up the vibe, babe.
Up the vibe, babe. And coincidentally, moving on to word of the week, word of the week is lighter.
Oh, good.
I might add easier and fun to that now.
Wait, no, you can only have one. Sorry, lighter. Tell me what inspired that choice.
Just because I feel lighter about thinking about the rest of my life. Whereas I went through a patch about 2 weeks ago.
Yes, you did.
Quite miserable. So
yeah,
about that. But it's passed, thank God.
And my word of the week is hay fever. I've had a bit of it this year, but I managed on my travels down here on Tuesday to get my hands on some 1-a-day tablets. I had one and the whole thing vanished immediately after days of sneezing and itchy eyes. It was a boon, but I only get it sporadically. And when I first went to the optician to have contact lenses when I was about 21, they ask you, do you have contact lenses? Hay fever, because you can sneeze. The old gas permeable days, you could sneeze your lenses out of your eyes. I don't know if you remember if you remember that. And he told me, and this is not a very well-known thing, that you don't always get it every year of your life. You get it in 7-year cycles, but other people don't agree with me on that, but I kind of agree with him. But and of course I haven't had to take a tablet since Tuesday because it's been raining ever since I got here, and that dampens down the pollen, I think, doesn't it?
Same with asthma. Nelson's had 7-year cycles, asthma goes in.
There you go. And it's in the same family, 7-year cycles, groovy.
And Nelson's hay fever has been absolutely shocking last month. So unfortunately for him, he's the only one who gets it in our family. But
yeah, does he take tablets or what?
Well, he was resisting, and I said, "Oh, for God's sake, stop being such."
Well, I was resisting too, and then I had one. It was like a bloody miracle, I tell you.
I know. He had to take one every night.
Honestly, I took it in the Marks and Spencer's car park where I bought my lunch and my snacks for the next 4 days, and honestly, before I got back on the main road, it felt like it had changed.
And here's another thing antihistamines sort out is, when I think of the painful mozzie bites I've experienced on holiday.
Yeah.
Not taken antihistamines. What was wrong with me?
I know. And do you know what as well? If you get the over-the-counter ones in America that are drowsy-inducing, they're perfect for falling asleep on an aeroplane.
Yeah. I think lots of people dose their children with those.
Well, but here we tend to buy the non-drowsy ones because we want to keep working and podcasting and writing and coaching and doing whatever it is and Nilsson does. But if you get the ones that induce sleep, they're perfect for going on an aeroplane.
Well, he uses those big chainsaw things. It's a good idea.
Yes. No, he's got to have his wits about him for that. Is he still chainsawing?
Yeah, he is, chopping wood and sawing wood and doing wooding.
And is he driving for Tesco?
Sorry?
Is he driving for Tesco?
No, he never got that job.
Oh, okay.
Which is a shame, because I'm sure he'd light up lots of old ladies' mornings.
Yeah.
Right, project updates then.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want? Okay, we topped 150,000 downloads this week, as you.
Yes, I did.
We're now at 150,176, which actually prompted me to write a little story about it. Which is.
I saw it. Did you not see my comment?
Not sure I did. No.
Oh.
Where was the comment? I'll go and have a
on
look.
the end of the story. I put this will be an origin story then, because it was you banging on at length of the story of the podcast.
Yes, it was. And do you know what? The origin story is our most popular podcast of recent weeks.
That's interesting.
Yeah, more downloads than anything else. So also I'm, the whole Phil thing has made me move over to my Clicks and Leads branding. So I'm using the Clicks and Leads website. I'm using the Clicks and Leads logos that I paid that chap to design, which, I'm glad I have some nice ones because I'm rubbish at design. And, it's all good this week. What about you?
Can I just ask a question about Big Phil Harrison?
Yes.
Is he big because he's tall or because he's wide or both?
He's a personal trainer, so he's just very
muscly,
large and muscly.
He's like Joe Rogan.
No, except Joe's short and Phil's tall.
Oh, right, okay. But they're big in the same sense of muscly. Yeah. Okay.
And did I ask you about your project update?
No, but I'm about to tell you now. So my project is my Jordan B. Peterson self-authoring project. I've made zero progress this week because I'm so tired of working without a desk. And my next 2 house sits will have one, and I feel I do my best thinking and writing when I can get, as Marion called it, when I can get my elbows on the table. And the third and final module, which we're working on now, is the most important one because it's about defining your future. So I want to be able to focus properly on that. I don't think I'm making excuses, but when you move house twice in a week, you have to focus on getting those things done, packing, logistics and meal planning. So for 4 days on the move, Tuesday one house, Saturday another, I'm not thinking about Jordan B. Peterson, I'm afraid.
No, but I'm thoroughly enjoying his Joe Rogan episode it's episode 1006, and it's with another chap who is a biologist, social biologist. And they're talking about, in fact, it was filmed about 2 years ago, and they're talking about racism, riots, divisiveness, and all the things that are totally relevant in the last couple of weeks. And I found it's a bit heavy going because it's 3 hours long, but I've divided it up into 3-hour chunks. And some of the stuff they're talking about is so prophetic, it's absolutely unreal. And if anyone's interested in what's going on at the moment, then I recommend you listen to it.
Very good. Now tell me who or what's impressed you.
Well, it's a viral video by a lady called Kim Jones, and the bit of background, she's actually a young adult book author, and her husband is a videographer. And they, during the riots in, I think it was Los Angeles, they thought to themselves, how can we help? How can we use our skills to help people? So they thought they'd go out on the streets and film some people, and Kim would interview them while the husband filmed and find out their stories and why they were out there and doing what they were doing. And at one point in between the interviews, she felt moved to turn to the camera and talk about, what had caused all this stuff and why American black people felt so strongly about it all. And it turned into the most impassioned, off-the-cuff speech I've heard for a long time. I was in tears at the end of it. And it's called How Can We Win? If you Google go on YouTube and just put in Kim Jones, How Can We Win? And what she does is she describes the plight of systemic of black Americans in America, and how they've got so many systemic things working against them. She likens it to a game of Monopoly. and she describes what's going on in terms of a game of Monopoly in such clarity that we can all understand how really Black Americans have such a raw deal. They really do. And I was, like I say, I was in tears at the end of it. And she ended on a rallying. Well, let's hope it. Well, it was a rallying cry of sorts. But I'll leave people who are interested to enjoy it for themselves, because she's very, very articulate.
Okay.
What about you?
3 nights running on BBC this week, the Salisbury poisonings.
Oh, I've seen things for that.
Well, because I don't watch or listen to the news, I'd only the vaguest idea what was going on. And when I moved house that March to Emma's in Somerset, I accidentally drove through Salisbury without intending to. It's like, I knew the sat nav was taking me. No, I don't want to go to Salisbury. No, I don't want to go to Salisbury. But then, before you realise it, you're driving around the roundabout. And I got to Emma's and I went, oh my God, I've driven through Salisbury. And she goes, no, you don't want to do that at the moment. No, you don't. We had a laugh about it. But actually, because I wasn't watching the news, I had no idea what was going on there. There was one very, there were the 2 Russians who were poisoned, obviously, and the bad guys who poisoned them. There was one very unlucky, innocent woman who the press had led me to believe was a drug addict. She was no such thing. She had a problem. She had various social problems, but she was sorting them out, and she had a family who loved her, and she had children who loved her, and she was nothing to do with it. She was an accidental victim of it, and she died. And there was one very lucky policeman who was the first person into their house, and it was all over the house, and he sort of picked it up and managed not to infect anybody else. Apart from the 2 Russians, the unlucky innocent victim woman and the policeman, they were the 4 people who were, it could have affected 400 or 4,000 in Salisbury, and I didn't know any of this,
Oh.
And one of the policemen says to another in it, when you think about it, it's a miracle, and it was a miracle as well. And it just is an interesting, it's a drama, but they show you the real people at the end, but you learn about what happened in something from the protagonist. So, the policeman, the victims, the neighbours of the people next door, the evil behaviour of the press, who are just, they're unforgivable, in situations like that. The shopkeepers of Salisbury, who lost so much trade for so long and the tourist industry in Salisbury, and you name it. You think about it.
But a cover-up, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, it's really, really interesting. I mean, it was a version of this. If you watch or listen or read the news, I'm sure you had a rough idea, better than me, of what was going on there. But watching the story, this is what I was saying to you earlier. Watching the story and learning the truth through a documentary, a drama, was interesting. And I don't think they'd interviewed all the people in it, and it's just a good way to learn what happened. And then you do see the real people at the end, which is also very anchoring. But the good fortune that only 4 people, it's very similar to the pandemic in a way, because only 4 people died, but it could have been so much worse. Wow. And, you just see the real people trying to, they don't know what we know, which is, I'm shouting at the television, it's the policeman, but the people trying to solve it don't know how these people, how he's touched something that's made him poorly, and we know because I knew enough facts from it. But I thought it was good telly, and I learned something I didn't know. And the main thing I learned was the press are a hindrance in something like this.
Absolutely, yes. So I'll watch it now. You've got your recommendations. I wasn't sure what it was all about, but now I do.
Well, it's the true story, but it's dramatised.
Yeah, I thought it was a cosy crime, so I was avoiding it.
No, I don't. Well, it's interesting that, because I have a client, we talk about cosy crime. We don't really want our crime to be cosy, do we?
No, we don't.
But the world does. Do you know the world does? You know the popularity of Midsummer Murders and Miss Marple and all of that. The world loves that.
I've got an idea for a cosy crime novel, but I can't bring myself to write it.
Because it's too cosy.
Yes, it's too twee.
Yeah. Well, all I would tell you is the market's ginormous.
I know, but I can't bring myself to do it.
I don't blame you.
I'll have to try and gritty it up somehow.
And of course, the good news is about the 3 nights running. You don't have to watch it 3 nights running. I binged it all. They drop them all simultaneously. You don't have to watch it at 9 o'clock every night for 3 nights unless you want to.
Yeah, that's something I'd have to watch.
And after episode 1, I wanted to watch episode 2 and 3 immediately. I don't think I did. I think I did it the next day. But I love it when it's available like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives you a dopamine hit.
Well, it's just enjoyable. It's interesting, engaging, and there's not much. I sometimes there's not much on for me, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, that's us done then.
All right. See you next week when I'll be in London.
All right then. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.